The real reasons. So why are Caribbean nations afraid? Let's be honest about it. Reason number one, America's economic muscle. The United States threatened tariffs on any country that helped supply Cuba with oil. For small island economies, already struggling with debt, inflation, and climate vulnerability, the threat of U.S. tariffs is existential. These nations cannot afford to be cut off from American trade, American tourism, American financial systems. Washington didn't just blockade Cuba, it effectively blockaded anyone who might help Cuba. Reason number two, the politics of ideology. The word dictatorship has become the shield behind which inaction hides. Trinidad's prime minister used it. And yes, legitimate criticisms of the Cuban government exist. Cuba's political system has real limitations that its own people debate. But here's the question nobody wants to answer. When Cuba sent doctors to your country, did they ask about your political system first? When Cuban surgeons were restoring sight to hundreds of thousands of Caribbean people who would have otherwise gone blind through Operation Miracle, did they check your democratic credentials before operating? When Cuban medics rushed to Haiti after the earthquake, did they demand political reforms before treating the wounded? No. They showed up. Reason number three, the weight of secondary sanctions. It's not just tariffs. Being seen as friendly to Cuba means being scrutinized by U.S. financial institutions. For Caribbean nations with dollarized economies, dependence on U.S. correspondent banking, and tourism sectors dominated by American visitors, the cost of solidarity is too high. Or so they've calculated. Reason number four, the silence of small nations. Some Caribbean countries simply don't have the political or economic leverage to push back. They are small. They are vulnerable. They are caught between principle and survival. And some of their leaders, frankly, lack the courage to say what Nelson Mandela said when he became president of South Africa. The first country Mandela chose to visit as president? Cuba. Because Cuba stood with South Africa during apartheid, when the West did not. While the Caribbean hesitated, let's note who did show up. China approved $80 million in financial aid and donated 60,000 tons of rice. Russia condemned the blockade and pledged to continue sending oil despite American threats. Mexico's president warned of a humanitarian crisis. Spain, Belarus, Iran, Vietnam, and the African Union all expressed support. Activists announced the Nuestra America Convoy, an effort to physically break the U.S. blockade and deliver humanitarian aid to Cuba, and the UN repeatedly called for it to end. But the Caribbean, the region Cuba practically built its solidarity legacy around, largely stood on the sideline. Here's what history will record. Cuba, a poor, blockaded island nation, sent more doctors to the developing world than all the G8 countries combined. Cuba trained 29,000 doctors from 105 countries, for free, at its Latin American School of Medicine, asking only that those graduates return home to serve their own people. Cuba helped 3.5 million people in 21 countries affected by disasters between 2005 and 2017 alone. Cuba treated 24,000 victims of the Chernobyl disaster for free when the Soviet Union collapsed and the world looked away. Cuba offered America doctors during Katrina. America said no. Cuba offered anyway. And now Cuba is dark. Cuba is hungry. Cuba is running out of fuel. And the world, especially the Caribbean, is calculating the political cost of showing up for a friend. One writer asked it plainly, where are the dozens of countries that have enjoyed Cuba's medical solidarity for more than half a century? That is the question of this moment. We are not here to tell you what to think about Cuba's government. We are not here to tell you that every decision Havana has made was right. But we are here to say this. Solidarity is not supposed to be convenient. Solidarity is not supposed to be safe. Solidarity is not supposed to come with a cost-benefit analysis. Cuba knew that. Cuba lived that. Cuba bled that. For 60 years, under a blockade, while still showing up for the world. The question now is not what Cuba did wrong. The question is, what kind of neighbors are we? What kind of Caribbean do we want to be? Because one day, and mark these words, the tide will turn, the blockade will lift, the fuel will flow, the lights will come back on, and Cuba will remember who stood with them in the dark. Will you? Thanks you for watching Caribbean Uncovered.